Welcome to another episode of Screen Capture. I'm Xander,
And I'm knocked.
and this is a show where we discuss various movies and shows ranging from pop culture to cult classics all the way down to our personal favorites. The item up for discussion is Back to the Future 2.
Okay, relax, Doc. It's Martin.
Oh, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Back to the Future 2 was released by Universal Pictures on November 2nd, 1989. The film initially received mixed reviews from critics and grossed over 332 million worldwide in its initial run, making it the third highest grossing film of 1989.
You want to be rich, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
The film was produced on a $40 million budget and was filmed back to back with its sequel, Part 3. Two actors from the first film, Crispin Glover and Claudia Wells, did not return. Wells's character, Jennifer Parker, was recast with Elizabeth Shue in her role, while Glover's character, George McFly, was not only minimalized in the plot, but also obscured and portrayed by Jeffrey Wiseman in heavy makeup. Glover successfully sued Zemeckis and Gale, changing how producers can deal with the departure and replacement of actors in a role. The plot starts immediately after the events of the first movie, when Doc returns and tells Marty that something has happened in the future to his kids. Doc, Marty, Jennifer fly off to the year 2015 to stop the horrific events. Not long after, the group find themselves back in 1955 trying to once again save the present. Good points that we liked about the movie. The comedy was still on point, allowing for more interactions with Christopher Lloyd and more scenes with the cartoon bully Biff Tannen.
Did have a way with women.
Get the hell out of my car, old man.
You want to marry that girl, Biff? I can help make it happen.
Oh yeah. Who are you, Miss Lonely Hearts?
Just get in the car, butthead.
Who are you calling butthead? Butthead. How do you know how to do that? Nobody can start this car but me.
Just get in the car, Tannen. Today's your lucky day.
I thought the cinematography was still pretty good.
Yeah. Also, the whole movie really feels to capture a nostalgic 1980s feel, especially the first 40 minutes of the movie. Unfortunately, that is about all we can really say for the movie. Bad thing. Now moving on to the bad. There were a lot of confusing elements that made the overall plot really hard to follow.
A lot of, dare we say, plot holes.
Oh, yeah. Mostly involving around either time travel or just either straight up ignoring previous rules mentioned earlier in the movie or just inventing things as they go along.
Skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else.
And the first 40 minutes, like you said, did feel a bit unnecessary in the long run.
They did. The first 40 minutes of the movie are all setting up the plot, the second half about going back to 1955. I don't know if you could do it differently, or I don't have any ideas off the top of my head to like make it better, but it just really felt boring and just convoluted. Like they I felt like the movie had to create its own problem. Like there wasn't a problem to begin with, so then they had to manufacture a problem for the characters to solve instead of coming up with something like potentially original.
Well, I feel like that was because the first movie ended with the whole, hey, there's something wrong with your kids in the future. So they had to go to the future, and I feel that they really did want to show the 30 years in the future.
Well, the movie could have just focused on that, in my opinion. Like you could have
Yeah.
like made the plot more in depth and maybe even more future shenanigans, and that way we would have gotten to experience the future world more, and maybe gotten a feel for their 2015 depiction.
Yeah.
By the way, just so nobody gets confused, yes, the movie took place in 2015, not 2012 or 2016, like so many people kept trying to believe. No, it was 2015. Which brings me to my next point, that the movie's depiction of 2015 felt more like a mid to late 90s punk scene than other works that depicted the future, like Demolition Man and other works, where like just their depiction of future was just more believable. Like you could believe that people lived in that world. But this movie's depiction of 2015, it just like is throwing random thing after random thing at you. Like in one scene you have like this arcade toy that features like,
It's like a hunting light gun game.
yeah, it's like a cowboy shooting like light gun game, which we still have at arcades today. And they're still just as advanced as they were before. Like and like you get to see with the kids, like you got to use your hands. It's a baby's toy. It's just like,
Which ironically, yeah, Kinect became a thing, but
oh god, did it fail?
yeah, people still prefer to having controllers.
Yeah. And like there's other things, like there was a whole like Pizza Hut rehydrated pizza that was just, it just really felt like fodder to like, we're in the future.
Yeah, like it feels like everything back in like the 60s to 80s with like the Jetsons.
Yeah, no,
always
it really
focused
did feel, it felt like a lot of like the Jetson
flying
stuff. Yeah.
cars, pushing a button to get an immediate full-on meal, and all the ridiculous stuff that just either doesn't make sense, just won't work, or is like completely against the laws of physics, like having a pizza be hot and ready and the push of a button.
Yeah, not only is it hot and ready, but she's able to grab it with her bare hand. Like, she's like, I don't know how that's supposed to work, but it's the future.
And of course, in
Welcome
2015
to the
they-
world of
Of course, in
tomorrow.
2015 they had flying cars, and that's the thing I was hating. I was like, well, it's this year, why don't we have flying cars yet? It's like, well, because you probably need a pilot's license, and
We have traffic jams on the road. Do you think we need those in the sky too?
yeah, I mean, what? You think it's bad enough to crash into another car on the road? Imagine crashing into another car in the air.
Well, not only that, like a car runs out of gas on the ground. Oops.
Puts it
I
off
guess
to
you
the
gotta
side.
walk a little bit. Car runs out of gas in the sky. Uh-oh. But all the like little things aside like that.
And I guess that goes on to the next point, that the movie seems to reuse or recreate a lot of scenes from the first movie. It seems like, and this happened a couple times in the first movie because, of course, where they go to the main town square of Hill Valley, and he looks around all surprised. Like, especially the first time he goes to 55. When he goes back to 85, he looks around because he was making sure everything is correct. But in this, like, every time they went to a new time period again, they had to, like, look around and see what changed. And it starts off right in the first one where he's in the future and you get the Jaws scene,
yeah.
and then, you know, he goes back to 85, that is now
Like-
changed.
I'm not gonna like okay.
But beyond that, that's not the only scenes that gets reused a lot.
Yeah, it's not just that scene. Like that scene, like I'll forgive slightly because it's the fact like because I've done that in video games, especially like when Grand Theft Auto San Andreas came out. Like I went to some of the old location, like when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, I went to some of the old locations like that San Andreas had, and just kind of like looked at the differences, just as like, oh wow, this is the new, this is the future, this is what they came up with. So like I can get that, like I can kind of get the whole idea of like, man, this is what it looked like back when, this is what it looks like now. But at the same time, what I didn't like was like legitly see like it almost felt like they were just padding minutes into the movie with just scenes we've already seen. Like there's a scene with Doc sliding down the cable again to reconnect it so that Marty can go home. Like no, that was legitly just ripped right from the first movie. It's not.
We really had a often ask ourselves if it was creative or lazy at times because
Yeah.
a big part of the plot is they go back to 55 to fix 85 again, and therefore
Yeah, and there were
2015, and like some things are like scenes we've always seen, but from a new angle.
yeah, and that's what I was about to say that we did get some really creative elements of like third party viewing of the scenes we've already seen. Like we get a very wide pan view of Biff getting knocked out from future Marty's point of view, as he's watching the whole thing take place. Because at this time he's not there. He's in the first movie. This is at that time he's locked in a trunk. And so it really like there were some really creative twists on past scenes, but at other times they just ripped scenes, and I think it's the scenes that were directly just pulled and reinserted. Those were the ones that I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah, I feel like I have to kind of quote Nostalgia Critic's whole first movie kind of thing with like they had to redo the skateboard scene with the new Biff, future Biff chasing him, and he gets the hover scooter and makes it a hover skateboard.
Although that gave us hoverboards. Although the hoverboards we got were way less cool.
Yeah.
And prone to explode.
Weirdly kind of cool. The coolest part is that they're prone to explode, to spontaneously combust on you.
Yeah. The next point is that in this movie there seems to be a weird character development that Marty hates being called chicken.
Chicken. Nobody calls me chicken needles. Nobody.
And it's become almost iconic with the franchise itself, but in the first movie it never really played a role, and in this movie they shove it down your throat. Like it just feels so out of the blue, and they use it so much to the point
they use it 3 times. I counted 3 times they used it.
But they used it to the point that Marty can be manipulated by it.
Feels like it's the only thing, and funny enough, it's used 3 times. Twice of those was only on the Marty that we are following. Once was actually on his future old man self.
Yeah.
Which reminds me that they still thought that fax machines were going to be
Yeah.
everywhere in everyone's house, apparently.
Yeah, they're still used today, but it's only business. Like only like actual like corporate businesses use fax machines, and that's just solely for like documentation purposes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like businesses and especially legal industries require physical documentation. so you have to usually fax a lot of stuff.
If I could just pop back to the whole reuse of scenes, one thing I was thinking is that the ones in the future were really creative, but it really got overbearing, I felt, when they went back to 55. Because, like, the first thing I mentioned was, remember that scene where Marty hid the DeLorean behind the sign? Here it is again. And, you know, like, remember when we played Mr. Sandman the first time? Here it is again. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure if you saw those movies, like, the few years apart that they had come out in the past, it was, like, a neat callback. But, like, maybe just because we watched it back to back within, like, a week span.
Like, this movie came out in
89?
89. That's 4 years after the first movie. Whereas the third movie was shot back to back with this one, like I said earlier.
And that's our next
That's our
point.
next bad plot point. This movie, I don't know if it was just the streaming service that we watched it, or the version of the movie that they had. Like, I don't know if this actually happened in theaters, like when you went to go see the movie. I wasn't alive back then. But the version we watched, it showcased trailer footage before the credits rolled. Like, it showed trailer footage of the third movie before credits rolled on the movie we just got done watching. Like, it's one thing to add, like, little teaser stuff, especially nowadays with the whole MCU and everything. It's one thing to add teasers footage at the end credits or mid credits, but full-on trailer for the third movie before the second one even rolled credits, that was a bit jarring for me. And it really felt like it took away from the impact of the ending, because I thought this movie did have a really creative, where like our last one we thought the ending was unimaginative or kind of unsatisfying. This movie has that, but that's because of this trailer. If the trailer didn't play, the cliffhanger that this movie set us up with was done really well, and I actually really enjoyed it. But it really got taken away from with the whole trailer footage.
Well, one thing I want to add to that is that no one remembers the true ending. Like, everyone remembers the scene before the true ending with the "it's a letter from Doc, he's alive kind of scene. I've seen it parodied like 100 times, but no one seems to mention what immediately happens after that, with him finding Doc in 55.
Yeah. Back to the Future 2 is an adequate sequel to its predecessor. While some elements felt overused and ham-fisted at times, the movie added some new stuff and did expand on what the first movie laid down. It is a good... Is it as good as the first? No. But it is still a good movie in its own way.